What are some moments in Star Wars that made you go, what the f? Well, I have put together 10 brutal, surprising, cool moments in Star Wars that probably made you go WTF. Starting off with a moment that definitely shocked me was when Darth Maul beheaded Pre Vizsla. In Season 5, Episode 15 of the Clone Wars, Darth Maul, in alliance with the Death Watch, takes over the planet of Mandalore in a well-orchestrated plan. However, after Maul and the Death Watch secure Mandalore, Pre Vizsla turns on Maul and Savage Opress and imprison them. Now, I don't know about you, but I really don't think betraying and imprisoning two dark side users is a very good idea. Of course, Maul and Savage break out of prison, and Maul challenges Vizsla to a traditional Mandalorian trial by combat for the rule of Mandalore. Now, let me just say that this fight was insane. I mean, we got jetpacks, lightsabers, blasters, bombs, flamethrowers, and even headbutts. Getting to see two alpha males fighting to the death over who gets to rule was already a surge of excitement, but when Maul got the upper hand on Vizsla, man, I did expect to see that ending. I mean, Vizsla with no hesitation says only the strongest shall rule, and Maul without missing a beat just takes his head clean off. What also sold this scene is the moments right after when we see the shock of horror in Bo-Katan's eyes as she sees her leader is headless. Speaking of beheadings, what about the time when Ahsoka Tano took the heads of 4 Death Watch Mandalorians? In Season 4, Episode 14 of the Clone Wars, after Ahsoka saves her friend Lux from being killed by Separatist droids, Lux knocks her out and brings her on his trip to see the Death Watch. Now, by this point, Ahsoka is very frustrated. She was taken by a friend, compelled to pretend to be in a relationship, unexpectedly kissed, forced to work as a slave, and made to witness a village being burned down. She couldn't take it any longer and stood up to the Death Watch, revealing that she was a Jedi. However, she didn't have her lightsabers on her, so she was taken prisoner. As she was about to get killed, none other than R2-D2 comes in to give Ahsoka her lightsabers, and in a split second, jumps into the air, slicing and dicing the heads off of 4 Death Watch members. This was a definite what the f moment, but in a cool and awesome way, as after that, she takes a fighting stance against Vizsla with boldness.
Nice.
Cutting off heads is one thing, but what about slicing a whole body in half? And that's exactly what we saw in the first episode of The Mandalorian Season 1. The show opens up with Din Djarin hunting down a bounty on an unknown ice planet where he walks into a bar in a very Western-esque style. Now, of course, if there's a bar, there is usually a bar fight right around the corner. Now, Mando holds his own against the 3 thugs, but as he takes down 2 of them, one tries to make a run for it. Of course, Mando doesn't let him get away that easily, so he uses his whipcord thrower to stop the thug in his tracks. As Mando reels him in, the thug tries to shoot him, but Mando quickly fires back, but instead shoots the door panel. With the panel destroyed, the circular door closes, but with the thug stuck in the middle. The door slices the thug right in half, and the sound effect is gorgeous. Now, we have seen how fast doors can close in Star Wars, and we have also seen arms chopped off as well, but having a whole body cut in half with a jarring sound to follow it to open a TV show is definitely a way to grab a viewer's attention. Something that definitely got the attention of Luke Skywalker is when he saw his uncle and aunt burning. This scene was more of a horrific WTF moment, as we saw the shock on Luke's face as he had to see the people who raised him burn to nothing more than flesh and bones. When you think about how George Lucas said that he made Star Wars for kids and then shows a scene like that, I wonder what made him decide to include it. I've been watching Star Wars all my life, but still to this day, this scene sometimes gives me the chills. Now, I'm not saying not to have dark moments in Star Wars. I'm all for it. I mean, look at Revenge of the Sith. That movie is really dark. And speaking of Revenge of the Sith, let's get the obvious WTF scene out of the way, and that of Anakin slaughtering the younglings. Nowadays, this scene is nothing more than a meme at this point. I mean, the amount of prequel memes about Anakin killing the younglings are never ending, and I'm not gonna lie, I get a little laugh when a decent meme about it comes up on my feed. However, let's take a step back from the memes and take a look at this scene for what it is. Like I said before, this scene is really dark. The younglings are hiding from their imminent death from the clone troopers, and they were a bit relieved when they see Anakin step into the room. Anakin was a renowned Jedi during the Clone Wars, and many younglings, Padawans, and even some Jedi Knights looked up to him because of the great feats he accomplished and the strength he showed in the battlefield. When all hope was lost for these younglings, they saw their hero step through the council chamber doors, and they thought they were saved. But lo and behold, instead they stared at death and evil in their final moments. Anakin didn't even want to kill these poor kids, but he knew he had to do it in order to learn from Palpatine how to save Padme. We even see Anakin crying on Mustafar, and this is backed up in the book for Revenge of the Sith, where the reason why Anakin was crying was because he was saddened about how far he fell as a person. He fell so far from the child on Tatooine who wanted to free people, from the teenager who wanted a better life for the galaxy, and he knew the evil he did could not be undone, and that's why we see him crying on Mustafar. In all, the scene is definitely a dark WTF moment, but come on, tell me you didn't get a laugh once from Younglings meme. Moving on to the next what the f moment is in Season 2, Episode 2 of the Clone Wars. Here, the bounty hunter Cad Bane has captured Jedi Master Bola Rapal as he needs him to open a Jedi holocron that he stole from the Jedi Temple on Coruscant. However, Bola Rapal doesn't open it willingly, so Cad Bane starts to torture the Jedi to try and get results out of him. In this episode, we see over and over again as Bola Rapal is shocked with electricity, and with each stun, we see him get weaker and weaker. As the episode progresses, the power of the shocks increase until Master Bola Rapal is hit with full power until his body can't take no more and Master Bola dies. It was a bit disturbing to see a Jedi getting fried to death like that. I mean, if you think about it, the equivalent to what Master Bola Rapal had to endure would almost be similar to the electric chair. Seeing a Jedi go out by getting fried, and to know that Anakin and Ahsoka almost saved him was a little punch in the gut, but this was more of a brutal WTF moment in Star Wars. Another scene that is definitely on the more brutal side of things is when we saw Count Dooku murder Jedi Master Yaddle. Now, the installment of Master Yaddle in Tales of the Jedi was great, and fans have been wanting to see her on screen for some time. For you more diehard fans that know of her sacrifice that saved Anakin Skywalker in the now Legends Jedi Quest book The Shadow Trap, where she absorbs a bomb, the show didn't really get to show off how powerful she really is. However, the way she dies in the show is almost horrifying as it was disturbing. Yaddle put up a decent fight against Dooku in lightsaber combat, and it kind of reminded me of the duel Yoda and Dooku had in Attack of the Clones. However, Dooku does get the upper hand and slams the building's door on top of Yaddle. Now, at first, I thought this was the end for her, and I mean, we just saw a massive door slam shut with her under it. But to our surprise, and with the Force theme playing at its finest, Yaddle shows us that she's not quite finished yet. With a last-ditch effort to try and convince Dooku to turn back to the light, Yaddle's words fall into Dooku's deaf ears. And with nothing more but darkness in his eyes, Dooku slices Yaddle's head in half. Damn! I was honestly shocked when I first watched this scene. It was very edgy with the way they decided to show it, but my thoughts afterwards was, dang, what the f did I just witness? Now, in Star Wars, we usually see people go down after being shot with one blaster bolt, unless it was a Jedi taking on multiple hits, or Commander Thorne's heroic last stand for the Republic. However, there is one scene where a clone sergeant takes on more blaster bolts to the point where it was just overkill. For those of you who know which scene I'm referring to, it's the episode Rookies from Season 1 of the Clone Wars. In this episode, we follow up on where the Domino Squad was stationed after they passed their training, but to their surprise, they were stationed, in their opinion,
the most boring post in the Outer Rim.
But that statement would quickly change as their outpost was attacked by commando droids. Now, during the surprise attack, the sergeant in command tried to hold off as many droids as he could, but his valiant stand wouldn't last too long. He takes a hit to the leg and tries to climb up to his clone brothers, but the droids catch up to him and unload an overload of bolts into him. This was an unexpected scene that definitely caught me by surprise, and as the scene expands out, you can see the many holes the droids made in the sergeant's armor. Like, why the f did they do my man dirty like that? Surely 3 shots to the chest was already enough, but no. Overkill is what they deem fit for this poor clone, but what's not too overkill is asking if you could kindly hit that subscribe button. It helps support the channel overall and helps these videos reach more Star Wars fans, so I greatly appreciate the support, and let's move on to a more horror-based WTF moment. Now, there are not many horrifying moments in Star Wars as it is, but one that definitely stood out is the Brain Invaders episode in Season 2 of the Clone Wars. I mean, this episode had it all. We got a zombie-like infection in space with no escape from the ship, adding the suspenseful music, jump scares, horrifying animations, and we got a brilliantly put together horror episode. At first, we were thinking, what the f***? This is actually a little scary, but after watching it even years later, you now think, what the f***? This is an amazing episode. If you haven't seen the episode or just haven't seen it in a while, I recommend go watching it, because for me, watching it again had me going WTF. And the last moment in Star Wars that made us go, what the fuck, was the shocking Darth Vader hallway scene that we didn't expect. First off, Rogue One was already exciting, and the ending was even more so. We got the Battle of Scarif on land and in space, but the icing on top of the cake was definitely Vader's hallway scene. Like, come on, the fear in the rebel soldiers' eyes as they looked into the abyss, as all they heard was amplified breathing, and then all of a sudden a red lightsaber ignites, revealing the Dark Lord himself. They didn't even hold back in this scene as Vader sliced and diced the rebels as if they were nothing. Showing the power and prowess of Vader definitely had me excited, jumping in my seat going, what the fuck?